There's a big thing about investing that so many investors overlook, and that is how much time is needed to put the odds of success in your favor. Maybe you know that investing is a long-term endeavor, but what does long-term mean? Is 1 year the long run? 5 years or 20 years? What counts as the long term? What is the long run? A lot of people don't know, or they haven't even thought about that question. Let me try to put some context in what I think it means when to say that you are a long-term investor. And I want to tell you a story about ice ages. Geologists have known for centuries that the world has, at times in its long history, turned into ice. They call it snowball Earth, when the whole world from pole to pole basically turns to ice. We have an ice age. 5 times this has happened in our long history as a planet. And for a long time, geologists have known roughly what causes these ice ages. There are shifts in the world axis that push the poles of the Earth closer or further away from the sun. We've known this for a long time. But about a century ago, a geologist digging through the data discovered a really important quirk. For a long time, we assumed that a new ice age began when the shifts in the world's axis meant that we would have brutally cold and snowy winters. Vicious winters that blanketed the world with snow and ice and bitter temperatures, and that's where these ice ages came from. But digging through the data, we discovered that it was actually the opposite. A new ice age began when a moderately cool summer meant that the previous winter snow never melted. When the winter snow never melts during the summer, you begin the next winter with a base of snow. That base of snow means that more snow accumulates that winter. And since there's more snow sticking around during the winter, even more snow sticks around the next summer, which means that even more snow piles up the next winter, and on you go. Thousands of years, this process repeats on itself, builds on itself, and you start a new ice age. Now, it's not intuitive to think that you can begin with a moderately cool summer, and that sets off a chain of events that turns the world into ice. But that's how compounding works. Compound growth is never intuitive. It's always amazing how you can start with something tiny and seemingly meaningless. And if it compounds on itself, if it builds on itself, it grows into something extraordinary. And that is also true, of course, in investing. So many things in investing work like this. You start with something small, and that small thing grows a little bit for a while, then a little more, then it starts getting a little bit bigger. And then over a long period of time, all of a sudden, boom, it suddenly grows into something that is mind-blowing and totally counterintuitive. Here's what I mean. As I sit here today, Warren Buffett, the greatest investor of all time, is currently worth about $100 billion. And of that $100 billion, 99.7 billion came after his 50th birthday. 97 billion of it came after his 65th birthday. Which is astounding, isn't it? The greatest investor of all time literally made 97% of his money after he was old enough to retire in his mid-60s. If Warren Buffett had retired in his 60s like a normal person, you would have never heard of him. He never would have become a household name. He never would have become one of the richest men on earth. The reason Warren Buffett is so wealthy is because he's been investing for 80 years. That's it. It's just the amount of time he's been investing for. Yes, he's a good investor. He's a great investor. He's one of the best ever. But his secret that's made literally 99% of the difference is time. Just the amount of time he's been investing for. That's how compounding works. And even if you don't have 80 years in front of you to invest, that same idea holds true for all of us. The single most important thing you can do to become a better investor is increase the amount of time that you are investing for. That's it. It's so simple. There's nothing more to it. Just wait longer. That's how compounding works. And it's crazy. That's how exponential growth, it's never intuitive, and it's easy to overlook because like ice ages, it's not intuitive that you can start with something small. And in the early years, the growth is pretty low. And then it gets a little bit better. And then after 20, 30, 40 years, it just explodes into something enormous. So here's how I think about investing. Investing is something that you should really measure over decades. It's decades, not even years. I'm talking decades, a lifetime. You can get good growth out of the stock market in a few years. You can do well in the stock market, but the big returns, that I think so many of us want and come to expect from investing. The kinds of returns that can really change your life and provide independence. That usually only happens on decade timescales, when you've been investing consistently for 10 or 20 or 30 years. That's when you get astounding results like ice ages. And now in some ways that might be disappointing. For me to tell you that you need 10 or 20 years to grow your money into a fortune, I get it. It's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy, otherwise everyone would be doing this. But I think in a lot of ways, this should be really encouraging. Because like we talked about in a previous video, doing well at investing, even very well, doesn't require being very smart. It doesn't require insider information or going to the best college. Almost all of what it requires is patience. Just patience, that's it. And anyone can do that. Your ability to be patient can be the same as Warren Buffett's. Time horizon is not an easy skill, but it's one that anyone with the right temperament and the right expectations can achieve. So if you want to become a better investor, so many people try to become smarter or more informed. And that's all great. But the best thing that you can do by far is the simplest. Just try to be a little bit more patient.